Back in 1985, the average house went for around $80,000, about $230,000 in today's money. It sounds small now, but for a middle-class family, it was reachable. Folks could buy a home with one steady job, a lawn out front, and a mortgage that didn't hang like a mountain over their heads. A brand new car in the mid-'80s averaged just under $8,000, roughly $23,000 today. It was the era of boxy sedans, shiny minivans, and the last big station wagons. Families often traded in every few years, rolling home with a proud grin and that unmistakable smell of a new car. Financing made it possible without breaking the bank. The average household income in 1980 was about $21,000 a year, climbing closer to $32,000 by the decade's end. That money stretched farther than you'd think today. One paycheck could cover the mortgage, car payments, groceries, and even leave something aside for vacations or saving bonds. Families counted on steady raises, and most lived within their means. Minimum wage was $3.10 an hour at the start of the decade and $3.80 by the end. Teenagers bagging groceries or flipping burgers could afford gas, movie tickets, and the occasional record. It wasn't glamorous money, but it gave kids independence, and it helped many families fill in the gaps when ends didn't quite meet. Gasoline averaged about $1.20 a gallon in 1980, and by 1986, it dipped closer to 90 cents. That's around $3 to $4 today. You could fill a tank for $10 and drive for a week. Families still worried about oil shocks from the 70s, but by the mid-'80s, road trips felt affordable again. Mortgage interest rates hit punishing double digits, over 12% in the early '80s. Buying a house wasn't just about scraping together a down payment. Those steep rates meant monthly bills that bit deep. Yet folks still lined up at banks, paperwork in hand, determined to secure a place of their own, no matter the cost. Public university tuition averaged about $1,000 to $1,500 a year, barely $4,000 in today's dollars. A summer job could cover it, and student loans weren't yet crushing weights. For the middle class, sending kids to college felt possible, even on modest incomes. Compare that to today, when a year's tuition can swallow a family whole. In 1980, farmland averaged about $737 an acre, roughly $2,500 today. Family farms were still common, but debt and high interest rates pushed many into foreclosure before the decade was through. The land itself held steady value, though. Today, farmland averages more than $5,000 an acre, and in the Midwest, it can be double or triple. The average property tax bill in 1980 came in around $700 a year, equal to about $2,750 today. Families set money aside grudgingly, but it didn't break them. Now, in many suburban counties, taxes climb past $8,000 or even $12,000 a year. Back then, folks joked they truly owned their homes, unlike today, when taxes feel like rent. A week-long family vacation in the 1980s ran about $1,000 total, equal to $3,500 today. Families packed the car for Florida beaches, the Grand Canyon, or Yellowstone, staying in motels and eating roadside diners. It was affordable on one income. Today, airfare alone can swallow that much, and a full week's trip often costs double or more. A family doctor's visit in the 1980s might cost $25 or $30 without insurance. It was the kind of bill you could pay in cash and walk away from without fear. Insurance usually covered the basics, but even without it, seeing a doctor didn't feel like financial ruin. Health care was simpler, less tangled, and a lot less costly. A loaf of bread in the 80s cost about 50 cents, while a gallon of milk ran closer to $1.80. Families bought them weekly, without blinking. Compare that to today, when prices swing wildly, and a trip to the store can feel like highway robbery. Back then, basic staples stayed steady, part of a predictable family budget. Ground beef was under $2 a pound for most of the decade. Burgers, meatloaf, casseroles. It stretched far in a middle-class kitchen. Moms stocked freezers with packs of it, and a pound could feed the whole family with leftovers to spare. Today, you're lucky if you find it under $5, making even simple meals costlier. A dozen eggs ran about 90 cents in 1985. They were a breakfast staple and a cheap way to fill kids up before school. Omelets, egg salad, or just scrambled with toast. Eggs were reliable and affordable. Today, with prices sometimes spiking to $4 or $5, people shake their heads at how much cheaper food once was. At McDonald's in the 80s, a hamburger cost about 50 cents, fries another 35, and a Coke around 30. For a couple of bucks, you could feed yourself, and a family night out barely dented the wallet. Compare that to today, when the same meal runs $10 or more. Fast food was truly fast and cheap. Concert tickets for the biggest stars, Springsteen, Madonna, Prince, cost just $15 to $20 in the 1980s, or around $50 to $65 today. Shows were electric, tickets sold fast, but the prices were within reach for middle-class fans. Compare that to today, when the same seats can run hundreds, even thousands, for a single night of music. A movie ticket cost about $2.50 in 1980, closer to $4 by the end of the decade. Families could pile into theaters without feeling the pinch. Popcorn and soda added another couple of dollars, but it was still affordable entertainment. Today, with tickets hitting $15 to $20, people remember the 80s as the last era of cheap Hollywood fun. A pack of cigarettes cost under $1 at the start of the 1980s. They sat on convenience store counters, and plenty of folks smoked without thinking much about health warnings. By the end of the decade, prices nudged higher, but they were still cheap compared to today's $8 to $12 packs, not to mention all the taxes added on. A new VHS player in 1982 cost close to $1,000. It was a marvel, being able to watch a movie in your living room. By 1989, prices had dropped under $200, and suddenly every household had one. Renting movies became a weekly tradition. That steep price drop is part of why home video exploded so fast. Renting a movie at Blockbuster ran $2 to $3 a night. Families walked the aisles together, kids lobbying for cartoons while parents leaned toward thrillers. Friday nights meant picking a stack of tapes, grabbing some microwave popcorn, and calling it entertainment for the weekend. For a middle-class family, it was cheaper and cozier than going out to the theater. A Sony Walkman in the 1980s cost about $100. It was a prized gadget, letting kids and teenagers take their music anywhere. Cassettes tucked into pockets, headphones perched on heads. Saving up for one took weeks of allowance or part-time jobs, but once you had it, you felt like the world marched to your own soundtrack. Levi's jeans ran about $20 a pair, durable and dependable. They weren't fast fashion. They were meant to last, patched and worn until the knees blew out. Parents bought them for kids, knowing they'd survive schoolyards and chores. Compare that to now, when designer denim can cost hundreds and still won't hold up the way Levi's once did. In 1985, Nike Air Jordans debuted at $65 a pair. A shock back then. Kids begged their parents, and some saved allowances for months. It was the start of sneakers becoming status symbols, not just shoes. Today, $65 looks like a bargain when the same models re-release for $200 or more. Back then, it felt extravagant. By the mid-1980s, gas-guzzling station wagons gave way to minivans, which sold new for around $9,000. They became the symbol of suburban family life, sliding doors, 3 rows of seats, and room for vacations. Families packed in, drove across states, and made memories. For the price, it was the ultimate middle-class utility vehicle of its time. An IBM personal computer in 1981 retailed for about $1,565, nearly $5,000 in today's dollars. Apple's Macintosh in 1984 was even steeper at $2,495. Owning one wasn't common yet, but early adopters paid the price to type faster, crunch numbers, and get a taste of the digital future. Long-distance phone calls were expensive, sometimes 20 cents a minute or more. Families watched the clock when talking to relatives across states. Kids got quick say hello and goodbye reminders before parents took over. Sunday evenings were popular because rates dipped slightly. Today's unlimited calling makes people forget how carefully minutes once had to be rationed. Magazines like Time or Life sold for $1.50 to $2 an issue. Families stacked them on coffee tables, flipping through pages of news, stories, and glossy ads. Subscriptions were cheap enough that most middle-class homes had several. Today, many of those magazines are gone or digital, but in the 80s, they were part of the weekly rhythm of life. Airline tickets in the 80s were no bargain. A domestic round trip often ran $200 to $300, equal to around $700 to $1,000 today. Families thought twice before booking a flight, and many still piled into the station wagon instead. Flying was special, with people dressing up for it, not something you did casually like we do now. Fast food pizza chains like Pizza Hut and Domino's sold large pies for about $8, which is roughly $25 today. Families could grab dinner without blowing the budget, and delivery felt like a luxury. Those cardboard boxes with grease spots became part of Friday nights across America. Today, that same pizza costs double, and feeding a family takes more planning. A six-pack of beer averaged $3 to $4 in the 1980s, equal to around $10 to $13 today. It was the classic backyard barbecue staple, stacked in fridges and coolers. You didn't need a big budget to stock up for a gathering, and most brands tasted about the same anyway. Compared to today's craft brews, it all felt simpler. A cold 12-ounce Coca-Cola from a vending machine cost about 40 cents in the 1980s, equal to about $1.30 today. You'd feed a couple of coins into the slot, hear the clunk, and out came the glass bottle or can. It was an everyday treat, not something you thought twice about. Nothing like the $2 to $3 prices now. A new color television in the early 1980s ran $300 to $500, or around $1,000 to $1,600 today. It was a proud investment. The centerpiece of the living room, families showed them off, neighbors gathered to watch, and kids argued over channels. By the end of the decade, bigger screens and remote controls made the upgrade even more tempting. Microwave ovens finally became affordable by the mid-'80s, running around $200 to $300, equal to $650 to $1,000 today. Families couldn't believe how quickly dinner could be reheated. From popcorn bags to frozen meals, it felt like space-age convenience. By the end of the decade, nearly every household had one, though plenty of moms still preferred the oven. Furniture shopping at Sears or Levitt's in the 1980s could furnish an entire living room for under $1,000, equal to about $3,200 today. Sofas, recliners, coffee tables, all delivered and built to last. Families often paid on installment plans, proud to make their homes look modern. Compare that to today, when one couch alone can cost the same. A dental cleaning cost $25 to $30 in the 1980s, about $90 to $105 today. Even fillings rarely passed $50, and most insurance covered the basics. Families went in, paid cash, and left without worry. Today, a simple cleaning without coverage can run $150 to $200. Admission to Disneyland was just $11 in 1980 and about $25 by 1989, equal to $35 to $60 today. Families could visit the park without breaking the bank, enjoying a day of magic, rides, and fireworks. Today, single-day tickets run $130 to $160 per person, turning what was once an affordable outing into a major family expense. A night in a roadside motel during the 1980s often cost under $30, about $100 today. Families packed into rooms with 2 double beds, a color TV, and maybe a pool out back. It wasn't fancy, but it did the job. Compare that to now, when even budget motels can run $100 to $150 a night. A Polaroid instant camera sold for $50 to $70 in the 1980s, equal to about $160 to $225 today. Families loved them because you could hold a photo minutes after snapping it. The pictures weren't perfect, but that soft, faded look became part of the charm. Today, Polaroids have made a comeback, but mostly as nostalgic novelties. A used car in decent shape often cost $1,500 to $2,500 in the 1980s, or about $5,000 to $8,000 today. Teenagers could save up for their first set of wheels without crippling debt, and families picked up second cars cheaply. Compare that to now, when even worn-out used cars often cost $10,000 or more, and cheap isn't really cheap. A window air conditioner in the 1980s cost around $250, equal to about $800 today. For families without central air, that little box in the window made all the difference in summer heat. Folks crowded into the cooled room, dragging in sleeping bags if needed. Today, with soaring utility bills, even running those units feels expensive. The dollar went further in the 1980s. One steady paycheck could cover the mortgage, a car loan, groceries, college savings, and still leave enough for vacations. Families weren't rich, but the middle class felt solid. Today, with housing, health care, and education costs soaring, people look back at the 80s as a time when money actually stretched. In the 1980s, rent for a modest two-bedroom ran about $350 a month, equal to $1,200 today. Landlords often knew you by name, and paperwork fit on a single page. Compare that to now, when city rents soar past $2,000 or more, and even small-town apartments can feel out of reach. Back then, renting didn't swallow your whole paycheck. A 2x4 stud in the 1980s cost about $1.25, roughly $4.50 today. A bag of concrete was under $3, about $10 now. Families tackled weekend projects without hesitation, whether it was a new deck or a garage. Today, a lumber shortage or price spike can wreck budgets, making home improvement feel more like luxury than necessity. Employer-provided health insurance was the standard in the 1980s. An average family plan cost about $1,100 a year, around $4,000 today. A hospital stay was about $400 a day, equal to $1,400 now. Compare that to today, when family premiums top $22,000 a year, and hospital bills can destroy savings. Back then, health care costs felt manageable. A student apartment near campus in the 1980s might run $150 to $200 a month, about $500 to $700 today. Split with roommates, it meant living on part-time wages was still possible. Students could focus on classes without drowning in rent. Now, college housing often tops $1,500 per month per person, making it one of the heaviest student expenses. A brand new refrigerator in the mid-1980s cost about $600 to $800, equal to $1,800 to $2,400 today. Families expected them to last 15 to 20 years, and many did. Compare that to today, when modern fridges can run $2,000 to $3,500 and often need repairs or replacement after a decade. Back then, appliances were built for the long haul. A middle-class family in the 1980s paid about $60 to $70 a month for electricity, equal to $200 to $240 today. Heating oil or natural gas added another $50 or so. Bills stayed predictable, part of a monthly budget. Today, families see winter bills top $400 or $500, making many nostalgic for those steady utility costs. Bowling was cheap fun in the 1980s. A game cost about $1.50 to $2 per person, with shoes another 50 cents. Families could spend a Friday night at the lanes for under $10 total. Today, one game runs $5 to $7 each, and a family night out easily tops $50. Back then, the lanes felt welcoming to everyone. A postage stamp was 15 cents in 1980 and 25 cents by 1989, about 40 to 55 cents today. Every household kept a roll in a drawer for bills and letters. The daily walk to the mailbox was part of the rhythm of life. Now, with stamps at 68 cents and rising, far fewer people even send mail. Daycare in the 1980s averaged about $250 a month per child, equal to $850 today. Many mothers still stayed home, but for working parents, it was manageable. Compare that to now with daycare often $1,500 to $2,000 per child each month. Back then, child care fit into the middle-class budget. Today, it's one of the biggest burdens parents face.